Hello and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name is Tim Murdoch.
And I'm Matt Emmert, and today's special guest is one major league hunk. He played Springwood High School's strong but sensitive jock, Dan Jordan, in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And after surviving Freddy Krueger's killing spree alongside final girl Alice, he returned in A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 and was the father of her dream child. But unfortunately, he met his demise in an excruciatingly painful motorcycle fusion-y cyborg dream sequence. Right. Please welcome to the podcast, the very dreamy Danny Hassel.
Yes, that's me, one Major League Hunk.
How many times have you heard the Major League Hunk line, by the way?
Quite a bit, but you know what? That it could be a lot worse. So
That's
okay.
True. I would love that if it was attached to me.
If I was just only known as Major League Hunk throughout my career, we're good. We're good.
Hunky guy. I'm like, me still? Oh yeah, I'm still hunky. Yeah.
So we love to like take things back to before, like people, how it was like growing up and stuff. And what we were wondering, where did you grow up and how did you just first get involved in acting?
I'm not like a acting story. Everyone I think when they become actors, they lie and go, yes, I wanted to put on shows my whole life. And like, look, mom, that's not true at all for me. I was like a regular kid. I wanted to be like an army guy and football player, cop, whatever. But I grew up I'm in an RV now, but no, we grew up really humble. I grew up in a trailer in Northern California, in a place called Cottonwood, which is near Redding. It's 100 miles. It's like 600 miles from Los Angeles, up near Oregon by Mount Shasta, but it's near nothing. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere. And so I didn't get into acting until I moved to Los Angeles playing sports. And then when I was playing sports, I was going broke, even though you can get on scholarship at SC, whatever, you still don't get money. So I was trying to play football. I was starving to death. And then I met an agent that was not only represented athletes and models and actors and all that. And that's it. From there, I got a manager and started. At first, I didn't take him. I thought he was just this guy who wanted to take me out to dinner because, he's just like, yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, no, I don't want to go out to dinner with you.
You're like, where's this going?
Hollywood.
That's what I told him. He was like, no, bro. I mean, nice meeting you and all that. But then for real. And then he got, when I kind of blew him off, the guy was like, 3 weeks later was super pissed off at me because I blew off all these important meetings I didn't realize they were actually important. So, and then from there I took it serious, not serious, but it's like, wow, you can do this as a career. And so I completely abandoned sports and just started doing acting and I got a couple commercials and a couple episodic television shows. And then obviously Nightmare on Elm Street, which ended up being #1 at the box office.
That's right. I saw it. My brother took me. I begged my brother Trevor, and I went. And
I was just way too young.
You were way too young. But as a kid, were horror movies on your radar? Did you grow up watching them?
Oh, here's the thing. No, again, that's another funny one. I love science fiction, and I love going to the movies. I mean, I love being an actor. That's really fun. Making movies is totally a blast. And even making a horror film is a blast. I just did another one with this guy named Hayden Newman. I don't know but I just did a movie with another movie with Lisa Wilcox.
Yes. Oh, we have that down. Don't worry to ask about. Yeah. We are going to ask about that.
Such a cool reunion. It's really fun. Anyhow, what was I going to say? So yeah, horror movies though, because I lived out in the boonies by myself. I never liked, when I was in the 80s when everyone was like, that was the heyday of it, Jason and all that, Halloween. No, they were too scary. I'd be at home by myself and like, oh my God, what was that? What was that? Oh my God, I don't know. And then Freddy Krueger, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, that freaked me out. That was just too scary. And he didn't talk. And it was before, every now it's overplayed. He's like, bitch, everything, bitch.
But you mean before Bon Appetit, bitch?
Yeah. So, but anyhow, seeing this boogeyman in the darkness say bitch back in the day, and that was freaky deaky. I was like, whoa, that Nightmare on Elm Street, But then by the time I came on the scene in Nightmare 4, it wasn't really so scary anymore. It was scary, obviously. My daughter doesn't watch it. I have a 4-year-old, but it's like she doesn't watch Freddy Krueger at all. But for the audience, Nightmare 4 was more fun and kind of campy, I guess,
Yeah, no, well, moving right into Nightmare 4, what was the audition process like for the role of Dan? Do you remember the scene you had to do or who you read with?
Yeah, I told Annette Benson. I remember everybody because they had cast some pretty big movies before, and Renny Harlin was already somebody. And of course, I had heard of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise by then, because Nightmare 3, even though I wasn't a fan, I hate the soundtrack to this day of Nightmare 3, all those hair bands. Sorry guys, I don't mean to make it.
You don't like the Dream Warriors, big metal bands?
What was it? Token?
So big. People are like Dawkins fans, and I was at this San Antonio, I was at this convention, and I was looking up at the Jumbotron, and I was just frozen on how bad this one video was. I was like, whoa, hairbands were terrible. Anyhow, people loved it, spandex and hair and whatever, makeup. But what was my point? Oh yeah, so
Audition.
Nightmare 4, I got the sides, but and of course it was like, a cattle call. They were looking for a million dudes. And the day I read, before I had left the building, Renny Harlin came and just said, "Hey, if you read like this one more, can you do this again?" And I basically just acted like myself. And then he was like, "You got the role," and that was it. I knew the day I read, I got it. And so I was like, yeah.
So you just read, and is it true? Because I know, like on Never Sleep Again and everything that you said, and I've read that like your character didn't have a name at first, and that you gave the character. Is it that you gave the character the name, or they did, or what?
Looked around or whatever, and that's just what they did on the first day, and then they just kept it Dan. And I was like, that was the joke. Like, he's such a shitty actor. I was like, just give him the same name. He'll do fine. That's
so funny. And they were just like, oh, cool, yeah, it can be your name.
Do you still have that Letterman jacket?
They didn't even what's it called at that time. Tuesday Night was cast because she was replacing Patricia Arquette.
Mm-hmm.
So she had already got the role, and I got the role that day. And then they hadn't decided which of the final Lisa was. There was a dark-haired Lisa and blonde Lisa Wilcox. And I had come back. Then the next day after I learned that I got the role, they're like, "Hey, would you mind reading with the Lisas?" And I was like, "Okay, I guess so." And so I met
Lisas. Do you remember who the other Lisa was that was in?
What's funny is I don't, to this man, it was only like 80 years ago. So
it was Lisa Rinna.
Yeah.
So she was a sweet girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just different colored hair. I don't know what they were like, different, but whatever. They ended up going with Lisa Wilcox.
Yeah.
But,
so when you got the role, did you go back and do research and watch 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. I already knew what 1 was. I was old enough to I remember 1, but I was also scared of it. And there was this new thing called HBO. It had like the Warriors on there and One Nightmare on Elm Street, like some rich families on the block had HBO. You're like, hey, to watch cable, so you could, that's where I knew of Nightmare on Elm Street 1, and then went back and watched the other ones and was like, and it, ours was like, just to be, I mean, it kind of 3, 4, and 5 kind of have continuity. The rest of them are all on their own and just their own deal.
I was going to say that because 3 of the characters obviously continue on to 4. So it's important that it continues that storyline. But 2 is completely different ones. And then 1, there's like the Nancy connection.
Well, the Friday 13th series and the Halloween series, they're very consistent.
There's only about 700 different timelines. So
Oh, and then, what? Someone I just found out that Robert or Freddy, the kills in those, like Halloween and Nightmare, or the other one,
Friday 13th.
Friday 13th. There's like 400 people have been killed in those, and Robert's like 40.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty rare. I'm like an astronaut that I've been killed by. I'm like, it's pretty rare to be killed by Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, that's true. You're right. The body count is a lot less. They spend more time, I feel like, on the nightmares and like these huge.
Some nerd in the audience totally knew. He's like, well, actually, if I regard it, he threw out the stats. I'm like, no kidding, dude. Right on. I was like, I didn't know that.
They're like, well, actually, I watch every kill every night before bed.
Me too.
He knew exactly how many kills, and it was Jason and the other Mike Myers have way more than Robert.
No, that's true. So, we've heard a ton of different things about the director of Nightmare 4, Renny Harlin. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, what was his directing style like? Like any memories or stories of working with him?
Yeah, he was real honest and real, like, what do you call the word? Just not fake in any kind of way. His direction was real straightforward. There was like, he was hands-on as well, like right beside the cameraman, and just kind of, for me, it was really easy. I mean, I had an easy character to play. So, I got, his direction was pretty easy, and he was easy. I got along with him really well,
And I guess now that we heard your background, you were a sports guy. So you were playing like,
totally was like if you look at my resume, they're like, he plays a quarterback in high school. The next one, oh, he plays a quarterback in college. And then he's like, oh, he's a guest star as a quarterback. And, you know, it was just like five different movies or same fucking dude.
So I guess I don't have to ask you what kind of preparation research did you do for the role? You're like, oh, I lived my life.
Right. No, the more I think about it, it's really funny. Yeah. 90% of the time I was the jock dude, Leatherman jacket. Whatever.
Yeah. Did you get to keep your Letterman jacket from Nightmare 4?
Like a dummy. I had it. And then it ended up out there on eBay. So
oh no. So
someone tried to find me and give it to me though, or something. I don't know what happened to it, but there's probably a dude in LA wearing it right now.
If you heard that, if you're listening to this podcast and you have that jacket,
it's not me.
Give it back. So, you know, and speaking of Renny, I know another thing was that there was some, I guess, or he talked about there was like tension with Bob Shea. Did you know anything about this while the movie was filming? Any tension on set?
Never with me, because I'm always like happy, what is it called? Good time Charlie guy. You know what I mean? I don't like get caught up in the drama. I didn't know, you know, they always keep it away from me. And I was just happy to be there every day. I was a kid, you know what I mean? I was like, this is the best job ever. Oh my God. I didn't want to argue with anyone. So yeah, there might've been stuff going on that went over my head, you know,
but that's great. At least because I can see that, like, if there's tension and the actors have to deal with it too, that could really affect performances. So kind of shielding you guys from it.
Actors are full of crap, man. Even, you know, I mean, or they're like, oh my God, there was no filtered water for 2 days. It was the worst. You know what I mean? The shit they complain about never ceases to amaze me. Like, so, and they still do it. So, I mean, so besides them being like that, then if there is a real like technical problem or some kind of scheduling thing, it throws actors into a tip.
Wait, well, then I have to ask, were there any divas on set on the movie? I mean, you don't have to out anyone unless you want to.
Yeah. Me. I'm just kidding.
You were the diva.
Where the fuck are my egg whites? Every day I'm like, you know what? What the fuck? This is a cold latte. I'd throw it at people.
That's a healthy food.
I feel like in the 80s, did people even know about egg whites? Like people we were still watching the eggs being cracked in those drug commercials.
No, dude, there was like one juice bar. And it was, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I was around before Starbucks. You're like, we got to go to the coffee shop. You know what I mean? Like classic.
Like Friends.
Yeah.
So you got to work with the staples of Lisa Wilcox and Robert Englund in 2 films. Do you have any fun stories about those two?
What a blast, right? Like Lisa and I are like brother and sister. She's attractive. I never got to like, just like, you know, that usually happens, but she was super duper married back then. So it was like, it was never like, it was strictly like fake, you know, like, yeah, it was like, there was never anything happened off screen or whatever, but we always hung out a lot. So we became like really good friends. And then same with Robert, because I did so much makeup. I had all kinds of crap done to me in both movies. And back then they were so excited about like putting that thing on you, the goo all over your face, the straws in your nose. And then they take it off and make like a cast of you know what I mean? And then they put it in the pickup truck. They did. I had a lot of stuff, what do you call it? Special effects. So then, and then everybody got those fucking body casts. I don't care if you were like doing a scene that required like nothing. They're like, we're gonna put a body cast on that person, you know what I mean? So all these dudes getting everybody had one, you know.
Oh my God.
But yeah, Robert was a talker. He was like you know what I mean? He would just like, he was a fun talker. The first time I ever saw him in makeup, right? So I'd met him without makeup on. And now we're like a week into the Nightmare 4. And we were filming next to a like a junior high, like kindergarten, not junior high, I'm sorry, like elementary school, like, you know, little kids, like kindergarten through whatever, like 3rd grade. And there's all the trailers and movie stuff over here. And then some people were like, little kids were saying, Freddie would bring that recess, right? And I'm like, those kids are pretty little. Do they really know what Robert's all about, you know? And so they're like gathering by the fence, you know, it's a big chain link fence, whatever. And then Robert was in his trailer and I had never seen him, you know what I mean? I was like, this is the 80s, so this makeup was pretty freaking realistic, right? You'd never seen, he had his fake teeth and his hair and everything was all greasy and had the glove. And so I'd never seen him with all the shit on, you know? So I was like, I wanted to see him too. So I'm waiting for him to come out of his trailer, you know? And now by this time, the kids were like all along the fence. And then he comes out of the trailer in character and just goes and kind of like saunters out. And these kids went ape shit. They thought he was real. Like, These kids went everywhere screaming. You see like teachers' aides chasing all these kids. And I was like, oh shit, he does look scary, man. He's pretty real looking, So
I would be scared.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how funny is it that kids are cheering for him and the character's a child murderer?
Well,
throwing me away. So the other day, I know. So this is also bizarre, just to parallel what you're saying. So yeah, these little kids, I was like, when they were screaming Freddy, Freddy, I was like, do they fucking know who he is? You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna find out. And some kids were like literally walking on air. They were running away so hard, they were scared shitless. It's like, what the fuck is that guy? And so, but yeah. So this other day, I was doing something similar to this, but more of live. Like people were coming and talking, And this man comes up and he goes, oh man, he's got this little child, like a 5-year-old. We watched it this morning. We watched it. I was like, and she loves it. She's been watching it since she was 3. Cool. I love your movie. It's great. I love you. I love your movie. And he walks off and the guy behind me goes, super cool. You're a terrible parent.
That's hilarious. I know you always talk about it's like the kids. I mean, I started watching horror movies, I guess, fairly young.
I was 10.
I was about 9 or 10, but like I feel like there are like you see these stories like these 5-year-olds that just love these horror things, and you're like, where are their parents?
It's too much.
Yeah, it's a little too much. 10 is early. I mean, 10, 9, and 10, but I mean, it depends how smart you are, how like
I was a genius.
Genius.
Exactly. You totally, you're like, I know, when you're a child genius, it doesn't affect you.
Yeah,
right.
That's the thing. When you're the real life Doogie Howser,
when,
like Tim.
When Harvard came knocking, I said, "What?
I know
what?
I'm watching horror movies.
Yeah.
Enough with this.
I got this."
So in addition to Lisa Wilcox and yourself, the cast of Nightmare 4, there was a bunch of hot young stars in it, like Tuesday Night, Andres Jones, Brooke Thies, and of course Linnea Quigley's boobs. But I was just wondering, did you become close with the rest of the cast while filming, and were there any like behind the scenes romances or hookups between the cast members?
I'll go down the list. All I know is me and Brooke Thies dated a little bit, and we never nothing too crazy because she was super serious, and she actually not serious. I mean serious, like she's girlfriend material. She's not like the hit it and quit it kind of girl. So but we kind of liked each other, and we kind of dated a little bit, and then she went on to do a television show. I don't know. So it was
just
like
the 10 of us, right?
Yeah.
A little busy for me. I was too busy smoking pot and surfing and being a dipshit. So anyhow, I don't know, but it didn't. But then I think Andros and Tuesday were an item for a while.
Yeah, we got a little bit of that. We talked to Tuesday Night, and she told us a little bit about that.
I don't know, because and then we all did become friends because the movie. It'd be nice if we'd all made a bunch of money, but you got a lot of instant fame because it went from like I said, this tiny little movie to now the lines are around the theater, and that's when that was like being in a hit band or something, I guess. All of a sudden our song was number one. And what was really fun is to go into movie theaters as a group. Like we did it maybe 3 times as a group, and then kind of go in after it started a bit, and then kind of sit in the back and watch everybody react, and it was really fun. That had big laughs, like laughing hard a lot, you know what I mean? Because it's a fun movie.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Do you have a favorite scene in 4 or 5?
It makes me laugh when every time, which I still feel I laugh every time when we did the in part 4, we're at the Craven Ode to Wes Craven. Lisa we're in a dream sequence, and Lisa Wilcox character comes around, and she's like, oh my God, we've done this before. And it does like a loop.
The time loop. Yeah.
And then I in all seriousness, when I did the line, I was like, haven't we done this before? And everyone erupts in laughter every time in the movie theater. And I did that, not even trying to get a joke. I was like trying to be serious. Like, haven't we done this before? But
what'd she say? I'm driving.
Yeah, she said it's really funny because and I'm sure you noticed, but Robert Englund has gone on or has said that is his favorite sequence in the entire Nightmare series, just because it's so trippy, and it said I think he said it related to how dreams really are, that sometimes you repeat things and time is all fucked up.
No, it is. It's the cheapest. They spent millions of dollars on other kind of gags, and that one costs $0, and it's the best. Like in the first time, people were like looking at the movie projector, like, is it broken? Like, is it skipping or something? What's happening? You know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah. And then it's funny because I laugh every time because I was not trying to get a laugh out of that line. I was totally trying to. Haven't we done this before? Like,
Wait, but before you do the haven't you done this before? Did they actually film the same thing multiple times, or did they just use the same take?
We did at a bunch of times because Lisa couldn't drive a stick, and she actually does it a bunch of times. Like she was learning on the spot on a fucking old truck. It was funnier and shit. She like sometimes, you know, she like jumped because it was a stick shift. So we did do it a bunch of times, and then the way they put it together, it looks awesome. And then the actual take, she does it. She drives, drops the clutch and takes off.
So when the movie was all like wrapped, which premiere did you have more fun? Like part 4 or part 5?
Part four was super fun. That was the first time I had fans lie to me and say they had all my posters, and I was like, I don't even have a poster. And I was like, that was fun. And we went, I think we were at Mann's, somewhere on Hollywood Boulevard where they do the big movies. So that was a big deal. And I was so green at like being involved in like that kind of having a movie premiere or whatever. It was pretty fun. Nightmare 5, I think, is a really good movie, but they went for the money, just like everything in a franchise. If they'd have waited a year and put Nightmare 5 out a year later, it would have done way better. But it was just like, you had Nightmare 4, the TV show, then Nightmare 5. Everything was just like too much Freddy. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what I was going to ask about next, because I mean, obviously Nightmare 4 comes out in 1988. Nightmare 5 came out only 1 year later. And I'm like, how soon after part 4 did you hear that they wanted to make a sequel? And did you always know that they wanted your character to be in it?
No, I didn't know, but it was actually, I maybe before we even wrapped, it was real soon because they saw the money. Do you know what I mean? They were like, oh, this is a big cash cow. So everyone jumped on the bandwagon. I mean, that's what people do, I guess, when they know they have a hot piece of garbage.
When did they contact you and tell you, hey, we want you back? Because you're one of the only 2 survivors in 4.
Really soon before you know what I mean? That's why I was super excited, because I was like, no way. They're putting me in another one and they're asking me back. And the only reason I was like, I must have been nice to the right person. I obviously was kissing the right butt. You know what I mean? I was like, cool. Because it wasn't like my amazing acting prowess got me the job back. I was like, wow. But it was super soon. And then, like I said, to me, I'm bummed that they dumped all of it together, because Nightmare 5 actually did terrible at the box office. Went like straight to video almost, and then but I heard this comedian when Beyonce was like really big, and she was like on everything, and she's like, I think I'm gonna take a break, and this dude's all, take a break, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, Beyonce on everything, it was like Freddie on everything. It was like lunch pills, fucking TV shows, like, and then he's talking, he's doing commercials, and you're just like, so it kind of took away from like the thunder. It just kind of stole our thunder.
It's like the oversaturation. Were you upset when you found out that they planned to kill off your character in this one, or did you think it was a good decision? When I got the
script, as soon as I got the script, because I knew that when they asked me back, I go, oh wow, and I started thumbing through the script, like, where do I die? Where first one to die? Yep, there it is. I knew it. Yeah, I was like,
you figured that they were going to kill you?
I did, because I was like, there's no way. I go, what is the, because that's kind of the formula they did for 3. Like, if you notice, like, they're the first characters they kill off, or the ones that were, in 4, they killed off all the characters from 3 right away. And then that's the formula. Oh, real creative writing. You know what I mean? I was like, thank you guys. Wow. I die like page 4. I'm already starting a death scene. But it was a really cool death scene. So
it was cool. That's what I was going to ask. But one thing I have to say, and Tim and I have talked about this before, is that I just hate that it's become like such like a trope, that it's like you get invested in characters, and then when you bring them back for the sequel and kill them off right away.
I was like, come on. I'm like, whatever. But that, like, again, there goes the creativity. And then what they wanted, they tried to wrap up in 5. If you notice, there's all these like heavy like topics, and they wanted to do that, but that was the purpose. And then all the death scenes were actually pretty intense, like mine, and then the Greta, the one that feed her, and so that there was some pretty intense special effects that had to go on. And then a lot of times in movies, it's like a logistic thing. They're like, let's just knock out these scenes real quick so we can get the work on those other things, that like the special effects stuff takes more days sometimes. And it's more like people working than doing regular just dialogue scenes, So that movie, the number 5, was so rushed. It looked like think they're called the Coen brothers or whatever. They do those movies where it looks like they're on a stage where they just move the camera. You know what I mean? Like have you ever seen Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou?
Yeah.
Who are those brothers? Those dudes that make those movies.
Coen
They also
brothers?
Are they the Coen? They're the Coen brothers.
Anderson.
Anderson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? They do that though with the camera. They do that with their movies a lot. They did the other one with the hotel where they're basically like on a big set. You know, that's how they filmed Nightmare 5. It was like a sound stage over here doing like whatever special effects that were going on. Maybe right here, this middle stage was doing like dialogue scenes, and then I'd be over here on a motorcycle. You know, so it was wild.
And it was, you guys filmed out in the middle of nowhere where there was like no air conditioning. I read that somewhere.
But what they did is because it wasn't New Line Cinema like it is now, New Line Time Warner. It was still just New Line Cinema. So they still were an independent film company. So they didn't use studio. They didn't use a studio. And there was this pasta factory like over here in Culver City that's like just they make spaghetti and whatever, you know. Well, they had moved locations, so it was this massive empty warehouse, and then that's what they did. They rented that and built sound stages in there. It's still there to this day. Now it's a Ross and like a Whole Foods or whatever.
That's amazing.
Let's go on a field trip.
Ross and Whole Foods.
Yeah, I know. You tell me that every time we drive by here. I'm like, you know that.
That's awesome. Well, what I was going to say before we get to your death scene, okay, so one very specific question. So I know that opening scene, which is like the artistic love scene, I know that's not you, that was Michael Bailey Smith who played Super Freddy. But I guess my question is, why didn't they just have you and Lisa Wilcox do that scene?
Oh yeah, that was it too. It was like Lisa was very like close set stuff. It was just, and like there's a scene where me and Robert and her are all in bed together. It's really funny. I always say that all the time. I did a threesome with Robert and Lisa. But whatever. No, there's this really funny part where I'm like in bed. Or no, Robert's in bed with her, and there's a dream sequence in where she wakes up and Robert's in bed.
Yeah.
Slides out of bed, and then I get in the bed, or I get next to her, and then they cut it together to where it's really, it looks like it was Robert and then it's me, But we actually were all in bed while we were filming that, all of us in the same bed. It's really funny.
It's a good jump scare.
Yeah, exactly. You know which one I'm talking about. So, so that scene, I don't know why they used, and he's huge. He has like big muscles. Like they could just film his ab, you know what I mean? So it's like a big ab. Or mine, I don't know if I had that kind of abs, they weren't like this big.
Well, it's so weird because it's literally the whole first scene is just like random body parts. It's even hard today to even know what body parts there are. And then when we saw Never Sleep Again and heard it wasn't even you guys, I'm like, well, that's weird. It
was weird. I couldn't. And then when I left and they go, damn, this is your double. And I'm like, oh, hey, dude, really? You know what I mean? He's massive. He's a massive guy. And he was super jacked. And I'm like, all right, man. I hope people, now I can't take my shirt off ever because I don't look like that dude,
He's like 7 feet tall, like 300 pounds.
But yeah, and then they, whatever, the way they cut it together, you can't even tell what it is, right? It's just like body parts moving. And then finally there is the over the shoulder, because like, it's like, you can definitely, that's my freckles. You can see the freckles. I'm like, wait, that's my back. You know what I mean? So
you're like, I got my back in there. Okay.
Yeah, my wife was like, I know that freckles. And I'm like, oh,
that's all. So onto the big death scene, which, like you said, it's incredibly intense and just really cool. How long did that entire sequence take to film, and how extensive was all the makeup and prosthetics for it?
I don't know how long it actually took. It had to be up into like 3 weeks because there were different stages of it, like outdoors, indoors, all that. And then like where it started from, like where I remember the wardrobe, there's prior to me, like actually getting on the motorcycle, there's a bunch of weird stuff that happens. Like I'm in a dream sequence and I smashed through a window
at the pool.
Yeah,
the pool, right? There's all that.
Yeah.
Like, which whatever that was fun to film too, because I actually did my own stunt for that, which is like all you do is like throw yourself off a little ledge and land on a thing, but then they throw like fake glass on you, and then I get up and go run to the phone and then all that. So then that weird little sequence took a lot to like piece together. So I was wearing, because I was in that wardrobe forever, I felt like a pirate.
It was like shredded clothes.
I would look like Castaway or something. I'm like walking around in that for like 2 weeks. And then but then when it finally came to the scene, I did the little burnout on the motorcycle, and then once they saw that I could do that, then it just like kept getting more and more and more like, oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. And then they got a stunt dude, and he could be like, he was a real motorcycle guy. And so it just grew and grew and grew. And then once we got done with the motorcycle stuff, we went into a sound stage. Now we're back over there in Culver City with the place with no AC and all that. There's like 5 different scenes going on. And but it was really wild. It was a big stage, like a stage in the middle of, now it's up on a platform, and the motorcycle is up on that, and it's like black walls all the way around it. So it was just like infinite. You couldn't really see. And then I'd get up on the motorcycle, and then dudes would stand right next to me and blow air and smoke and debris or whatever. So it looked like I was going really fast, So, and then just like hours of me screaming.
I like that.
So the wreckage part, when you're underneath like the car after it wrecks, is that, I mean, obviously that's you. I mean, is that real fire?
Yeah. How close were you to all that?
Back in the 80s, all this super sophisticated techniques, right? So what it is I didn't know this until I was doing movie magic, and here we go, it's fucking rubber cement, right? Rubber cement, like the shit you build models with, right? That's super toxic, not safe, but super cool, because you can take it then just like rubber cement, and then dab it places, go over here, dab it over here, dab it over here, and then on action they light them all. So they burn like in these strategic spots, right? Because they can dab it everywhere. Well, yeah. So they got all these spots, you know what I mean? Where this big fire. And I have like this amazing thing. That's another thing I had to know. Another prosthetic piece. It was like my neck had been like ripped out, and like my windpipe was hanging out and all this stuff. You know what I mean? It was wild. Then I had this patch over my eye. And so I looked completely fucked up, and it looked real as hell. Like you could not.
I thought it looked so good.
Oh no, it was hours, like 3 different makeup artists painting the veins, and just fucking looked amazing, right? And that was another thing. In between takes, I walked across. There's a neighborhood that's like, full of Hollywood shit, and then right over here, these people are like, they have no idea that there's a movie going on right here. And so in between takes, because they took the shortcut. I went through the neighborhood, and I went up to this old lady. I go, "Ma'am, call 911." And she did not think it was funny at all. She kind of cussed at me and like didn't think it. Some people thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I go, "Oh, I'm just kidding," and she was just miffed.
You should have had Robert Englund run up to her in character and be like,
"You think I'm bad?
Bon appetit, bitch."
But yeah, that scene, that whole death scene was super fun because what is it? I spent so much time doing special effects, and then that was a blast. Yeah, so dude, it's fucking rubber cement. It's totally toxic, right? So it's like this black smoke comes out of it. But like I said, they can put it in super cool areas and then light it, and it's burning right there on action, So on action, they had all the fires, and they're like, "Okay, ready?" And I'm in there, and it's getting kind of hot, and they're like, "And flames, action." And then I have the line where I have to say, "Hey, Alice, want to make babies?" And so the first time I did it, they're like, "Let the smoke, let the flames." Okay. And I'm like, "Oh," and when I took a breath, I took like a massive bong hit of like rubber cement smoke, all in there. And I started coughing to where I almost threw up. And then they like sprayed, "Oh my God," like spraying everything with extinguishers. And I'm like, "I'm okay."
Oh my God.
And like, that was the first take. And then they're like, "Should we be doing this?" And I'm like, "I got it. We can do it." And then luckily the next one, it wasn't so dramatic. And then it came out like it did. It came out pretty cool. But yeah, that was
great. Turned out great.
Well, and that's the thing. And then what we also saw in Never Sleep Again, that they had to cut tons of that scene, to get an R rating. But I guess there's like an unrated cut available.
So weird. The thing of it is, again, they made it up. So we were trying to figure out how to get the wires to go into my arms and into my legs. So some crazy dude, whoever, I forgot, there's a million art guys, all the art department dudes. And so he figured, let's put it on the arm inside, and then we'll pull it out, and then we'll run the film backwards and see what it looks like what it does. And sure enough, it looked so amazing, even with the sound and no color, just black and white, because we wanted to see if this thing was going to work. It looked like the wires like came to life, and then went into my skin and like into it. It looked super real, like it penetrates the skin and on my legs. So they figured it out. This is a great gag. This is so cool. And then the wires into my skin. The people did whatever they're called, the people that rate your movie or whatever, they said, "No, the wires going into the skin is too graphic, X rating." So yeah, that's what they did. For the United States, it's like you can see the wires, they come up right before they go to my skin, edit, and then it's like super fast. And then now they're in my skin. But
I mean, by today's standards, it seems tame, but
and that must be so defeating.
It's still ridiculous if you look at all the movies and it's a child molester dude, whatever, killing people. You're like, that's it. That's what you guys are gonna give it. You know? Yeah.
I also feel like as the art department people and the director, after working so hard on something like that, and then it gets cut, that's got to be so disappointing.
Right. Or bummed, except, well, we knew. We were like, dude, that worked. That was so cool. They did a bunch of cool stuff like that. When the seatbelt even attacks me, like, I'm like upside down in the truck and they're just like dropping the seatbelt and letting gravity do that, like come down. And when they roll the film backwards, it looks like it's moving on its own and wrapping around me. So a lot of clever tricks, little, what do they call it, practical effects versus like CG stuff, CGI or whatever.
Yeah. Do you personally, I mean, I think I know the answer to this question, but would you have preferred they have at least kept Dan alive longer in the film, or were you fine being like the first killed?
I mean, I didn't mind being the first kill, to be honest, because it was like the, what do you call it? The formula. But now watch the movie, I wish, they should have kept it. And because if they were going to they should have. And then they should have left the movie. They could have even kept him alive. Who knows, Yeah,
the poor guy, you didn't even find out she was pregnant.
Yeah. All that went on too. So it was like, whatever. But at the same time, I also am glad that, because if you notice in Andros Jones' death in Nightmare 4, where he has like the worst death scene, no offense
to karate.
The karate,
ran out of money. That's what I think. They don't tell the truth. Like, well, we've kind of shot our wads. So Andros, I guess you're just gonna have to pretend Freddy's in a room, and then we'll film it. I guess because we don't have any more money.
I mean, he does a good job. I mean, as a kid though, I was like,
it's hilarious because he's fighting no one.
He's funnier. He's super funny. Like when he talks about it too, because he totally makes fun of it because how they did him. He's the only one that was killed by Freddy when Freddy wasn't even in the room, or he's
just a glove. Just a glove.
But it was magical.
I'm just like, they're like, I was like, well, we're out of money. So here, Andros, here's a glove. Go fight yourself and we'll film it. Okay, cool. That's it.
Karate moves.
It's a long scene too.
Yeah. After the elevator and that. Yeah.
No. That's like, I think that was the last bit of money because they had to like do all that cool thing. And then after that, they were like, well, Robert, we can't afford Robert even anymore. So it's just like,
they're like, there's no Freddy, you're dead.
They're like, we got it. How about if he's pooping in an elevator? We got
the poop, elevator, and glove. We're good.
This is definitely good writing here, right? Or whatever.
So we have a little game for you that we're going to play where we're just going to ask questions and you just have to answer with either Nightmare 4 or Nightmare 5, just to kind of get your thoughts on things and a little trivia, but just the things. So all you got to do is say Nightmare 4 or Nightmare 5. So, okay, first question, which do you think is the better sequel?
Nightmare 4.
Yeah, I figured you.
Yeah.
Which one have you seen more times?
Oh my gosh, Nightmare 4. Nightmare 5, the sad thing, I watched till my death and then I just don't watch the rest of the movie.
Turn it off. That's funny.
Oh, what happens after that?
Like, something with babies, nuns, eating, and swimming. Oh, we're good.
I did watch it again recently because we do the little con tours and stuff. So I've been hanging out with cast from 5. We just did one, so I had to go back and watch the movie.
A refresher.
And we had Erica Anderson on the podcast, and she's great. And like her death scene is so great. Yours and hers. Well, the 3 death scenes in it are really great. Like, so that's, it definitely has some things going.
I like it. I saw it opening day. I loved it.
Yeah.
No, I own it on its own. That's why I'm bummed that I think it, just like you said, on its own, it's a good little horror film or whatever. But it's just like, because of the timing, we kind of like, it didn't get the light shined on it that it should have, I guess.
So which was more fun to film?
I don't know, both of them. Different feel for both of them. That's a toss-up. Because like, completely different feel because they were different directors,
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
And then I was again happy to be employed as an actor. Like, yay,
Oh my gosh.
In a big franchise. Yeah.
Like I think one day the craft service the food was like a half hour late one day. It was terrible.
Oh God. And then
they
didn't have your cold pressed juice available and your sushi rolls and your latte with little foam soy milk something.
Me and Mark, I just did a movie with Mark Patton and he's so funny. We were laughing so hard because like Mark's a trooper, he's not very diva-ish, for the most part, I guess, not to me, we were just on a movie set together, and it was so funny because we did have people that come, oh, are you okay? Would you like anything? And you're always like, no, I'm fine. I'll get it myself. And then Mark was like, we made a funny joke, like you could just, then because people are so eager to like help you, you got like 3 different production assistants asking you for, are you fine? Are you fine? So then you just go, man, I'd really like a water. That sounds good right now. I think I'm going to go get a water. And then like, before you know it, here's your, like 10 people are like, hey, I heard, and then they start like, I'm going to get him water. I'm going to get him water. No, I'm going to get him water. I get him water. You're like, oh my God.
Sparkling, tap, bottled, what brand? Ice cubes?
This isn't Pellegrino. What the fuck is this shit?
Throw it at them.
Okay. So which set had more drama?
Yeah.
Number 1, I would say number 1. What's it called? 4. Drama, I guess. But yeah, you could see it sometimes because there was like, I don't know, stuff that I'm like not that guy. I'm too busy having fun. So,
which in your opinion had better overall death scenes?
Oh man, let me see. That's a tough one. Because like what's it called? The cockroach scene is all time. I think is crazy. And like the baby, when they feed the girl to death, and those are in 2 separate movies. So it's like, I'd have to say 5 because my death scene's pretty cool. And it's like, out of all the death scenes in Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm kind of in the top 10 sometimes. I'm up there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Nice. Okay, on to the trivia-ish questions.
These are trivia questions. Which has a higher body count?
Oh, I don't know. Do you guys know?
Yeah, we know. I wanted to see if you knew.
5?
No, it's actually
6.
No, 4. Well,
I mean, number 4 with 6 people.
Yeah, 4 had 6 people. Number 5 only had 3 deaths.
Wow. Again, budget cuts.
When we even looked this up, I was even surprised because we've seen part 5 a bunch of times, but for some reason, I think because the death scenes are so intricate, I was like, wow, they only killed 3 people in it.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, right? That's really wild. Yeah, it's wow. And then man, it's funny because they start right off in 4. They kill Kenny Sagos' character right off, and they just start going at it. So yeah, I guess so. In 5, they don't. It's kind of a slow. Right. They don't really.
Okay. This is a very important one. In which one did you take off your shirt?
Oh, definitely did a scene in Nightmare 5 where I was like with high-waisted jeans, very tight high-waisted jeans.
That is correct. It is so funny. I was wondering, was that their call or were you like, hey, I'm going to wear no shirt and high jeans today?
Their call. I don't know. Yeah. It was like, yeah, it's their call. They're like, we're at a pool party. Why, beefcake, get a shirt off.
Which featured the Freddy one-liner, "Wanna suck face"?
Oh, that's 4.
Nice. Okay, now this is a tough one though. Which one featured Freddy using the word bitch more times?
That's like Rick and Morty, that show. They fucking say bitch all the time on that show. And it's like every time I hear it, I'm like, that's fucking Robert Englund. You guys know that, right? I'm like, use it. It's in pop culture everywhere, and it's Robert. I don't know. When does it? What I'd have to say. When does he talk the most? Yeah. 4? Does he say it in 4 the most?
It's actually 5. He says it once in 4 to Alice. He says, "You think you got what it takes? I've been guarding my gate for a long time, bitch."
Good job, Matt.
And then in part 5, he says it twice. Once to Amanda Kruger, says, "We'll see, bitch." And then my favorite of all, "Bon appetit, bitch," to Greg.
I'm just gonna let you say all of them.
I did. Awesome. They all blend together because that's like his favorite fucking. What do you call that phrase or whatever?
Yep. Last one.
Okay. Which featured Alice's dad?
4.
And 5.
It's a trick question. He's in 5 too.
Oh, the graduation.
Yeah.
Yes. Trick question. So, I know we've talked a ton about Nightmare 4 and 5, but I wanted to get to some of the present stuff you've been involved in, because before we ask about Reunion from Hell 2, I read in an article that you were making a return to horror in like a vampire film called Nightfall. Is that happening, or has that filmed?
Finished it. It's a movie and small movie, but looks really cool. Super awesome director named Renee Perez. Bunch of really good looking actresses and actors. Me. No, but I play like it's a vampire, it's horror. I play a commando that serves a vampiress. I work, kind of like and that's basically it. And then we go And there's a story where we sacrifice people for the vampiress. I work for her, but the way it looks really good. Like as far as how the movie looks, and it's like that was like a super fun project, and that's done. It'll be out. There's still post-production. I don't really know, how long it takes. I know they're putting the score on that movie as we speak, so it's getting done. It'll be out, and then that'll get distribution, and probably not like big, like distribution like people think, like at the movies, but it'll be at like Target and Walmart and all that, like nationally distributed, or I'm not even saying that word right, but that's the way this guy works. He's kind of anti-Hollywood in a way, because like, no, I'm going to do it on my own. So that's what he did. And he's a really talented director. And
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Called Nightfall. It'll be out. It'll either be streaming or like somehow, some kind of, I don't know. And who knows if somebody gets a hold of it that has more money, and then they'll put their, Hollywood, if they like it, they'll pay for it. So I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed for that one.
That's really cool. We'll see it. No, we definitely are going to look for it, because I had read about it, and then, but I wanted to know when it was going to come.
As soon, obviously, I'll be the first to tell everybody about it when it finally gets out there. But it'll be out there. It's going to definitely be. I'm not using the right word, but it's getting distribution. Yeah. But it won't be a release like how they do movies, because we're basically dodging Hollywood, because they're kind of full of crap. They're trying to say these are the rules, and we're like, no, this is the rules. We're making a movie, and then we're going to put it out on our own, because we don't really want to deal with all your crap. So yeah, good for him, and good for you guys. Everyone can do that. He's got his, like I said, he does 3 movies a year, and he doesn't want to. He's like happy guy. He's not desperate. He's not like trying to sell you on anything or get followers or all that. He's just like, no, this is what I do. And then he's like, fuck you, Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Well, we also saw, obviously, you were mentioning that you recently filmed another horror sequel called Reunion from Hell 2, where you're reuniting with Lisa Wilcox and also Mark Patton from Nightmare 2. And I'm just wondering, like, how did this project come to be?
Yeah, so we do cons, right? We do conventions, and Hayden Newman is an actor director, and he'd done Reunion from Hell 1, which is his movie. And I was at a convention in like North Carolina, or in like Raleigh or somewhere in North Carolina, and or Virginia or somewhere. We were just in the South doing a little tour, and Hayden's table was at one end, and mine, we were kind of neighbors, because all the Nightmare people were at this end, and then he was here talking about his new movie. And then over like the course of a day or two, we hit it off as friends, and then like that night over drinks at the bar, he's like, I want to put you in a movie. And I'm like, okay. And then he'd already cast Lisa, and so they wrote me a part in there, and Mark had already had a part in it also. So it was like super fun. It ended up being a super fun project, and it ended up, that also looks really good. I've seen parts of it, and it's a lot of fun, because it's all the Nightmare reunions. Mark, Lisa. I mean, we weren't in the same movie as Mark, but it's still Nightmare people, and it had like a good energy. The whole cast and crew was like pretty upbeat and fun, and so I think it's going to do well too.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, do you know when we can catch this? Like, this sounds like this is like a Nightmare fan's dream, Yeah.
I mean, not because I'm so into myself and Lisa and Mark, but it is that too. It's super cool. And Mark is super funny in it. Like, he has his laugh, and he's super funny in it. And so like, and it's a slasher. It's a full fucking horror film. You know what I mean? So it's like
even better.
I think it looks great. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people to check it out. And then again, there's like, it's done, but post-production, they're probably like doing a teaser trailer first, and then final production. And that just got finished like 3 weeks ago. So
that's awesome. What a big return to horror for you. Like two movies. And
hopefully, and then like I said, I do other stuff. I go by Hot Shit Hassel, Haute, Hot Shit. And I do up comedy once in a while, and been doing that. And I just got upstaged in Canada. No, I was supposed to do a thing in Canada, but a bigger star kind of slid in there and took over. So that happens. But yeah, so we'll see what's next. I don't want to jinx anything. So
at what point did you know that like Nightmare on Elm Street was not going away? Like, I mean, like, was there a period of time where it kind of teetered off, and then like it came back like with a vengeance?
Yeah. Did you think you'd be talking about it 30 plus years later?
Here's what's crazy. No, absolutely. So I went through, after I did Nightmare. I did another Nightmare. I did a couple shows, and then I did a series that never took off. Robert Russler was in it with me. It was called The Outsiders, based on the series.
Yeah, I saw that
TV show. So, and, that TV show didn't take off, and that would have been like, a big deal for me to be like on a solid TV show for a couple of years, but that never happened. And then, Nightmare stuff kind of faded. My career kind of faded, and I ended up joining the military. And then it wasn't until Freddy versus Jason that like all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And so people kind of like got into the Freddy versus Jason, or people was like, oh, have you heard of that? Of course, yeah, I'm in one of those movies, And then when I got out of the Army, 2017-ish, not that long ago, but it's been a long time since Nightmare. And it was amazing how like at the cons and like a whole younger generation, 20 years younger than me, were like, they were into Nightmare on Elm Street, into actually all of them, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th. And it's just like, it's almost like, I guess I can understand, because I didn't get into like Led Zeppelin until I was in my 20s. And they were, that was years before. So I can dig it. Like people just were like, they were out, it became popular again. Yeah. And so, and then because of the conventions, we've been able to like, travel to cities and go to Europe and, all just because of the franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street. Robert Englund, in all seriousness, Robert Englund is more recognizable, Freddy Krueger, than like almost any star that I've ever met. You know what I mean? Like, I've met a lot of big stars, but no one as big as Robert. You can go anywhere and go, oh, Freddy Krueger there. Oh, yeah. They know about
it.
I mean,
and then you're like, what, are you from outer space? How do you not? You've never heard of Freddy Krueger?
Yeah.
This is a silly question, but obviously, I mean, do you still keep in touch with the people from 4 and 5?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do. Because I mean, there's a few. Yeah, we do. When Robert is super busy, so I don't see him, but I just talked to Lisa. I got to we were in a cabin up in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, which is super fun, and then, what's it called? The convention thing is kind of cool. Well, maybe once or twice a year we'll get to run into each other. And then, when you do a movie like that and you're on a franchise, it's kind of unique, like being on a sports team, I think, or maybe being on, the band team that won that year for the best band ever, You're kind of like these weirdos that were on the same team 30 years ago, but it was, now we have this really unique story,
That's so cool. I love that.
I mean, and you said you do a lot of conventions. What's the most common thing you get asked at these conventions?
I don't know. I mean, you know what? I don't know if it's there's a what I noticed the common theme of it is, because at first I was like, what do you guys want me when they approached me about conventions? Or I was like, you're out of your fucking mind, right? You want me to ask people to take a picture with me and then pay me? I was like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. And then sure enough, that's what you do. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, wow, there's actually people. And then the thing of it is what I've learned. At first I was like, this is fucking insane. There's no way that people would even show up. And then they do. You're like, wow. And so the fans are like hardcore. They don't care what the mainstream is. They don't care. But if they're Nightmare on Elm Street fans, that they love Nightmare on Elm Street, and they're not going to change. Does that make sense? Almost like,
we're those people.
Yeah, we are those people. We're the people that would go to those conventions.
Most loyal fans. They're loyal fans. And if you've ever, that's all I can say. You know what I mean? They're super loyal fans. And it's like, man, just if you don't believe me, I could have a GoPro on at these conventions and talk to people just like we are now about the movie that I did 25, 30 years ago or whatever.
Oh, we believe you because we've been to a lot of those conventions. And these are like our people, they're very loyal, dedicated. They follow you throughout your career.
I haven't been to a convention where you've been yet.
Where are you guys at? What state are you guys in?
We're right here.
I live in Sherman Oaks and Tim lives in West Hollywood, but we've been to a number of conventions, I think, but no like Nightmare specific ones, right?
No.
I got super lucky. Like, what's it called? I got to go to, there's one in Monsterpalooza. It's in Pasadena.
Yes.
So the same day that my daughter was born, my daughter was born on Thursday. I was supposed to be at the con on Friday, but I stayed with my wife. But I had a baby and then got to go to, I went for Saturday and Sunday, but I had a baby and then went to Monsterpalooza in the same weekend. It was pretty exciting.
Oh my gosh. Is their name Monsterpalooza?
Her nickname. So Danny, we have one final question for you, and we ask this to everyone that we talk to on the podcast. And you've already told us some tidbits I think that would fall under this, but we're going to ask you this and give you a little second to think. But it's what is one thing that you can tell us about your experience working on either Nightmare 4 or Nightmare 5 that you've never told any other interviewer, publication, convention, podcast? Just one thing that you've never told in any other interview about your experience working on either of those films.
And it doesn't have to be scandalous. You could just say like, Renny Harlin's favorite food was chicken.
Or it can be Renny Harlin slapped me after a long day of filming.
Right.
It's getting
Oh no, man. Well, that's kind of like a secret behind the scene. One of the times, you have to go get these masks made, the things that you put over your, whatever you call it, the cast or whatever. You get this, you have to go. You have to go in. One of the dudes let me smoke pot.
While you were getting the mask made?
Oh my God, that must have been like the ultimate high.
Because I had to hold my hands and he held it up to my mouth while I just inhaled a little bit.
Wait. So they held the joint up to your mouth while you were getting the That's amazing.
Did it calm you down? Because people get claustrophobic in that.
Right. It did. I had to now I could hear my breathing and I was really and it made me giggle. I couldn't laugh. So I had to be because you have to hold your face expression. So now I'm laughing, and my face was supposed to be like this. I swear. So I'm already like this. And then they're like, you're going to have to hold that for a while. And then the goo is starting to come down. And then right before he's like, "Do you smoke pot?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Here."
That's amazing.
Put out, and then they put these things in your nose, and then it goes, oh, and then they're like, "Okay, make your face." And I had to hold my mouth and then I had to hold it like that until this shit actually hardens. You know what I mean? It's really weird, but it came out.
I would say that would probably be a lot easier to do it when you are high than just normal. Because I was
concentrating. I was totally into it. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I can feel it sticking to my face." I said, "Yeah, I can feel it." And then they're like, "Okay, wiggle your face around. It'll start coming off." And I'm like, it's coming off. And so, it's it peels off of you. Right. Well, also though, there's so many times where I'm fucking around or whatever. And we had an ambulance and we were there's a scene where "Don't do it. He's allergic." And Lisa hits. So we had a real ambulance and we were driving down the street and around or whatever. And it was super fun just to drive down the street and throw the lights on and just watch everyone get out of your way.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Anyhow, it was pretty fun.
That's great. Well, look, this has been so much fun for us. Really. We were so thankful and grateful for you for taking the time to chat with us.
Hey, nice meeting you guys. Super cool. And so, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for being so honest and friendly and cool and funny.
Yeah.
With you guys, super nice meeting you guys. Very, 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 very fun. Very fun.
Okay, awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Guys, have a great weekend, guys. Nice meeting you. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
Saturday.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Happy Horror Time.
This podcast is hosted by Matt Emmer and myself, Tim Murdoch, and co-produced and edited by Jacob Randall.
We now release episodes every Monday, and in each episode, we either review horror movies that just came out or interview stars and insiders from iconic horror films. You can stream all our episodes directly from our website, that's happyhorrortime.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And remember, our reviews do contain spoilers, so we always post the movies we're discussing a few days in advance on our social media pages, so listeners can check them out ahead of time.
And speaking of social media, make sure you follow our pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Happy Horror Time. We even started putting our interviews up on YouTube along with our horror short film, Come In. You've got to check it out. You can find us on YouTube by searching for Happy Horror Time.
If you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/happyhorrortime.
That's patreon.com/happyhorrortime. Patrons get access to our growing library of monthly bonus episodes and other fun benefits like ad-free episodes that are out a day in advance, our monthly newsletter, participation in polls, and autographed Happy Horror Time stickers.
Woo! And if you'd like to contact us, please send us an email at happyhorrortime@gmail.com. Tell us what you love, how sexy you think we are, whatever.
I'm Matt Emmert.
And I'm Tim Murdoch.
And we hope you have a happy horror time.